play as all of them. It's an overhaul campaign, and what we're doing right now is just exploring the custom battle feature. Now, we have a real treat for you today. It's going to be a fucking huge engagement. Large armies on both sides. That means 40 units for each player. 4 players, so that's a lot of different units. My ally here pushing forward is actually going to be Kingdom of Jerusalem and Cyprus. And myself on his right flank, I'm going to be deployed as the Kingdom of England. Some of my foot soldiers pushing forward here. And I really like this map. It's super cool. Both armies deployed kind of up on a hillside with the village at their back, so it makes for a really epic engagement. Let's get some nice shots of these. Oh god, the Crusader Knights, so good. But yeah, our forces deploying here at the base of the hill. The enemy force is going to be Kingdom of France and the County of Toulouse. And they're formed up many ranks deep. Saljean here. And god, look at this. Tons of heavy infantry with some crossbowmen interspersed in between. Some heavy spears in the rear ranks here. And more men. And this is just one army. Another army to their right echelon in the back. Tons of footmen looking out over this area, and oh lord, this is going to be a huge mess of a battle. Look how many guys are arrayed. So cool, this gets me excited. I love seeing the colors move forward, and oh god, look at the knights. Look at the knights, so good. So they're going to start to take fire at extreme bow range. I think effective bow range, or extreme bow range, is something like 200 meters away, 250 meters away. And that you know, trajectory arrows are just going to ding off troops, especially heavy armor. I think I heard that at this range you could even catch an arrow. Of course you want to be wearing a glove, but you could catch arrows fired at this range. So the Kingdom of France is moving forward. They have 5 cavalry pushing for the far right. A nice group of heavy spears with Free Company longbowmen. It looks like they've actually recruited. Funny to see the longbowmen on the French side. This is the Kingdom of Toulouse. And then swordsmen pouring forward. So they're going to stick mostly to their hilltop position. And then over here, a couple of the heaviest of the French knights going to be lining up against my guys. Let's go ahead and actually take a look at my build as well. So I have a huge assortment of knights equivalent to the French ranks. They aren't the heaviest or best of troops, but they're still very, very strong. And I know that the way the game mechanics work for this mod is cavalry battles and engagements can last a long time. And you don't need the best cavalry force, you just need something to go kind of toe-to-toe for a little bit, pin the enemy down, and then swarm around the flank. Getting the flank is often the most important part. So having slightly worse off cavalry is just as good as the super heavy cav. You just tie it down, and then you win with superior numbers. Speaking of superior numbers, I have brought the most men to the fight by having a lot of cheap troops. So what have I deployed? Well, on the right flank, I have something kind of interesting going on. I have longbow militia and then peasant archers with a basic spear militia. So a lot of cheap, kind of just zoning units meant to push forward and stake a claim to the front ranks here. And I'm going to move up even closer to the enemy cav, kind of tempting them to charge forward, but I know with the close support of my army, not much they can do to see me off. Oh god, I love the sights of medieval forces. Ooh, let's get a nice shot of that. That looks epic. The troops swarming in the background. So we're going to start picking away at the enemy. Looks like we've already set some bushes alight. The enemy's going to try to respond. But yeah, so this is my probing force on the right. I've staggered, deployed my cavalry, and then in the center, I again have some cheap spear militia, backing that up with a ton of the archer sergeant, Earl of Hereford. And I decided to mass a lot of archers, kind of trying to roleplay with different contingents. One of the cool things with this mod is there's a ton of unique units, not so much stat-wise, but in terms of the colors on on them and the armor and the unit variants. It's just supposed to represent troops drawn up from different lords and whatnot. So I have kind of role played that the troops from Hereford here have sent a lot of massed archers. And this is a unit that we're going to focus on. So now they're going to unleash on the enemy front ranks. I'm going to focus fire on these Pevasirs. The crossbowmen have lower range, and so can't really deal with my guys firing from extreme range. So I'm going to start to pick away at them slowly, but it's going to take a lot of time to deal appropriate amounts of damage. Meanwhile, enemy Pevasirs here, spearmen, are going to form up to screen the cavalry. Now I focus fire on this position. So what do I have along the front lines? Well, peasants to soak up an enemy charge, spear militia to hold back an enemy cavalry charge, and this is all screening the advanced archer position. That's just going to allow me to pick out enemy forces at extreme range. And in the back, well, my ally is mostly infantry, but I have a lot of these, again, Bill Sergeants, Earl of Marshall contributing substantial forces, Norfolk, Earl of Salisbury, so, and from the king himself, so a big contingent of troops. And then the foot retinue from the English king, having committed himself some of his royal bodyguard here, as well, kind of holding the back. And then I have this more elite unit in the back, heavy billmen, late period, sitting pretty. And then I have some Bill Sergeants here, as well, kind of overlooking the battle. And then what I'm going to try and do at this position is charge forward with my knight. There's a bit of broken ground, but I was just trying to see off the enemy units, force them to reconsider what they've been doing. That's one of the things that you'll see me do a lot. So I've positioned my archers on the flank of this force, focusing fire on them, only having done 5 kills worth of damage, but over time it'll be a lot. And then I charge forward with my peasants across no man's land, just to try and bait the enemy into a charge. And now that he's out in the open, oh, looks like you found yourself in a very, very poor position, my men. And they kind of realize this, try and do a double take, and now I'm going to focus fire on them with my archers safely in line. And let's watch from actually my ally's position, where he has just a massive number of knights, and what they get to see is they get to laugh at the French who are retreating from peasant forces. So they're having a hell of a time watching the bows on the right get underway. Looks like we actually have some of our own bows as well, shooting from the rear ranks, with the king here overlooking them as well. So this is a nice position. Oh god, and here comes a big push of the infantry. I don't think they're going to get positioned all the way. They're going to close in it again. See to the cleanliness of the lines, and now we're slowly moving up. Myself as well, with the archer support, going to call up the billmen. And then I'm slowly going to stagger my forces. I figured that I may want to attack the right. And if I'm going to attack the right, I need something to be able to beat back the cavalry. And so that's what these forces here are going to do. Try and screen. And what I want to do is target this gap here. I see that these are swords. And then I can charge with my own cavalry. Peasants were sent into the mix here. And they didn't really do too much, but they did kind of pull his milites perfecti and longbowmen out of position. Meanwhile, on this flank, we have cavalry engaging cavalry. And it looks like the favor is going to be ours. Hospitaller Knights going to be doing really well, with infantry on our side mixed in as well. Dismounted Knight Brothers getting on the mix against the enemy heavy spears. I think we'll win this. This is not a good commitment. 3 cavalry, we only needed 1. The other 2 should have gone around the back and hit the units in the rear. That would have given us a victory. They could have easily gone after these Ballistari. That's what I'm thinking on this flank. So my cavalry are pushing through the center. I'm going to do a feint on the enemy. Meanwhile, I'm doing a full-on assault up through here. Foot retinue did a feint on the enemy lines, and then here I'm going to commit with some of my swords. With the Earl of Lincoln with some purple on him, and they're going to be here to kind of start to hit and pin up the enemy forces. My cavalry here gets a bit too close, but my intention was to land a strike on these medium melee infantry. Peasants come back, and I'm going to charge into the flank of this force that I pinned with my swords from the front, and that's going to be doing a lot of damage. Meanwhile, over here, I've charged forward with my knightly retinue. Just did a little bit of a hammer and anvil on these pole arms, and then I'm pulling out. Cavalry is going to be sent into a just a frenzy because of that. But this is all meant to kind of bait the enemy. The more they charge at me, the more I can target them with spears and other forces coming in to move in close support. Meanwhile, on this flank, we're sending more troops to reinforce the cavalry engagement. Enemy is not doing the same. Crossbowmen trying to support, but we're going to get the advantage there. And here comes the enemy charging in pursuit of my guys, but I have set up a trap. Spearmen coming in on one flank, more spearmen. Again, cheap troops going to be tackling the superior Frenchmen. And then all of my archers are going to be told to focus fire on these guys. So spears going to be swarming around the flanks. So that was a good engagement. This is why I often go for the checkerboard formation. My guys just completely set up in different positions. My opponent can't focus fire anywhere. Cavalry get, stuck on a couple units, and then I'm able to start focus firing and peppering them. A couple of my cavalry did crash through the sergeants in the center. Now I'm going to be going after the mercenary Genoese crossmen, just at least to silence them. Don't anticipate to win. Meanwhile, my archers have been continuing to focus fire. But let's watch the main line here as... yeah, this English line has been taking a beating. Spears now in shield wall, but against the might of this Crusader knightly swordsman wall, yeah, I don't expect them to do too well. And the archer fire coming from the town. Let's get a nice little look at this. I'm not quite sure what these swordsmen are waiting for. Oh god, but here comes a charge. All down the line. Brace yourself, spears. Boom, an all-out charge up to the center. This is absolutely brutal. On this side here, the mix of infantry cutting in with the cavalry is going to prove to be pretty decisive against the cavalry, but I think we've gotten an advantage. And yeah, look at how we're pouring through on the right. A complete rout of the French cavalry here, just because we had the heavy hospitaller dismounted knight brothers, awesome sounding troops, even in wedge formation it seems, in the mix, just plowing through the French. And now the French are seeing their main line engage with the left flank, having cavalry free. Yeah, that's not good. And look at the swarm of crossbowmen now trying to agitate and turn around to deal with this threat. Some units in the back, reserves, trying to push up to save the front line, but man, that's not going too well. Meanwhile here, I have, let me slow motion this, I had committed some of my infantry to this position, and we're doing fairly well. I had tried to put a bit of pressure onto the center and pulled back. The enemy cavalry got sucked into this position and shot to pieces to not much effect. And then with my checkerboard formation, I just merely pulled back, and I've been focusing fire on Petites, units without proper support. My bows here, for instance, going to be targeting units that are pushing up, and I have no incentive to get an engagement close to the enemy lines. I just stand back and shoot away. So enemy's going to try and form up. I'm going to counter with my billman units. Are going to prepare themselves, and now I can watch as the French start to push up. I do have one free cavalry force. He's going to be charging after the enemy, plus my heavy swords. I'm going to try and do an assault on that hill. Let's watch this. Billman versus Billman. Yeah, the French here are going to be doing a lot better than me, especially since they start to have an enveloping French position. But now I get my masses in on this, so it's going to be a huge holding force. We'll see how this goes. Meanwhile, I'm going to start to pour forward. Archers have been getting continuous fire on the line, and now I spot a bit of a gap in the enemy line. That's again an advantage of the checkerboard formation. So look at the enemy getting sucked into this position where I can hold with a couple units. Archers in nice enfilading positions, taking hits at the halberdiers, and then I've got lots of just sprinkled forces here and there, some reserves to plug the gaps. And now I'm going to shoot this gap as well with cavalry. My enemy is going to try and respond. What I can do is I can threaten the rear of this position, and more importantly, get to the back of this formation. Over here, the the French line continues to crumble as we just tear through the flank. into the back of the crossbowmen, and now we're going to start to threaten this position. But the main assault on my side is going to be underway up through here. I've got my footmen charging the hill, and we're even committed against some of the general forces from the French. Take a look at my cavalry that was able to weasel through here. And now I'm caught in a bit of position. This is going to precipitate not the pursuit of the French, but their, this is their cue to try and do something. So they're going to pull around the flank as well, seeing as I have no cavalry support. And take a look at what I'm going to do. Rather than taking these two cavalry and meeting them in the field where I'm going to lose, all I'm going to do is pull them back into safety. I don't need them to engage, and I'm going to allow my cheap spear militia to deal with the French. Archers are going to be retargeted, and that's how we're going to see them off. Meanwhile, over here, I've pulled back with my cavalry. Not sure where I want to go, but I have two juicy targets, so the French king and the Count of Toulouse in the back. So those are going to be my targets, awaiting this eventual slaughter on that flank to take place. The fighting is hot and heavy in the center. And this charge into the back of my Saljean is going to be punishing, but cheap spear militias in the mix. And yeah, look at that. Heavy French knights seen off by some of the cheapest troops. That is always a good sight. But looks like the French are going to get a nice charge in the rear. And I believe this is going to actually shatter my force. And a couple of them breaking here, but that's what spear militia are for, is to break and die. And look how much damage. A third of the Frenchmen, or half of them, having been killed in those two units. This one as well. Well, actually pretty strong, but now getting caught even on my retreating men. And now my cavalry is going to be in a position to do a counter charge into the French and continue to tie them down. Meanwhile, the bow fire is indiscriminate, killing everything, picking off units at a distance. Those cavalry cannot catch a breath. So yeah, this is punishing, and as they try and pull back with my sword support, they're going to be seen off pretty handedly. Another charge blunted by peasants, and then counter charge with my own swords. Two spears coming back. Yeah, those guys are pretty much boned, although this cavalry does have an opportunity to do fair amounts of damage. If they can collapse on my blob, that's going to be pretty punishing. Although they do get stuck, this one's going to seize the opportunity to punch through the gap. I pull back some cavalry to try and deal with this. We'll see if it makes it through. I get point blank volleys. That cavalry force is going to take out one of my guys. But take a look at this. This archer unit was out of ammo, so who gives a fuck? Bill Sargent's going to come in and try and take them out. Meanwhile, the main line is still holding somewhat, despite my guys being completely enveloped. In the back, my cavalry forces have engaged with the enemy kings, the French king and the Count of Toulouse. This is a pretty interesting fight. I'm bringing my general all the way around the back to get back into this engagement, pop his abilities, and actually contribute some numbers. Meanwhile, the French are continuing to rally, but there's been a bit of a hold on this front. The English Militares Perfecti are doing pretty well, and they actually crush the Crusaders from the center. That's super interesting to see how these heavy spears were actually able to win out in holding the line. So that's pretty cool, but we do have a lot of free cav, which often is a make or break in this type of battle. My archer is now continuing to unload on my enemy's cavalry. I still have a healthy cavalry unit, knightly retinue, Earl of Norfolk. Just trying to consider where I want to place him. Tons of archers firing into this flank. The enemy cav now starting to retreat in the face of my punishing fire, so that's going really well. Enemy reserves being thrown in the mix, but take a look at this healthy cavalry force. I have two infantry going to be targeting the enemy Genoese crossbowmen. They've been putting on a lot of fire, and it is time for them to die. Huge blow from the flank. I'm going to pull forward with some of my own knights as well. And we're going to give an attack order, boom, straight into this mass as well. And then infantry also going to close, so we're going to be able to silence this, bathe them in blood, and look at the carnage in the background too, as the armies continue to fight. English are finally breaking. Yeah, you can see that. Meanwhile, my side is being continually hammered by these heavy troops. Cavalry getting in, landing some nice strikes on my side. Bows are reforming, but my cheap troops have finally been beaten back. But that just means that my bows have to get out of there, and they are more than happy to do that. It just means that the enemy is going to be tired in the pursuit, and as I start to spread out, yep, tons of bows, tons of ammo left to just deal with these guys, and I still have some heavy billmen holding firm in this position, and we're actually going to beat some of these footmen at arms, which is pretty awesome to see. But it's only going to last so long before I get a triple surround against me. Although at the same time, that does offer the opportunity for me to shoot these guys in the backs, which is always greatly appreciated. Mass bow fire from the hill. Going to be targeting these swordsmen. Let's watch a little bit of this. That's awesome. So that's all I have here. Had the enemy had a couple more extra cav, they could have cleaned this up handedly, but their cav here is getting picked to pieces. I even have an archer unit in no man's land specifically tasked with shooting up the enemy cav. My cav wins out only for the time being, but the Earl of Norfolk here should die. In the back, my cavalry have completely shredded the enemy units with some buffs that I did apply to them to beat, have bonuses versus cavalry. Still, this engagement taking a long time, but we are going to claim the hill here. And then my swords are engaged with this mercenary Genoese crossbowman, still taking a long time to win. I did disengage my cavalry, and what they were tasked with doing was, hey, go ahead and hammer and anvil the remaining pockets of English. That is what you have to do. Sometimes you should fix the enemy and just, pull out with the cavalry, because they are much better suited at knocking out enemy groups of infantry. Speaking of that, disengaging from the fight at the top of the hill to land a nice, awesome charge to expedite the fight here. Take a look at that. Yep, boom. This unit that was otherwise holding out for a long time is going to get massacred, and my kills go up almost to 100 in the blink of an eye, and there we go, it's shattered. So those are a bit of the mechanics of how this mod works. Cavalry is king. And now look at this, like 90% of our remaining forces is archers, but we still have a lot of foot troops. Meanwhile, the enemy is finally going to surround the last of my heroic Bill Sergeants from the English king. And the battle is looking a bit grim for them. Seemingly, from their perspective, all they can see, from crest to hill to crest to hill, is the English. So I would think it was almost over if I were these guys, but you see a couple archers in the distance, and then on the back side of the hill, ooh, what is this? Well, looks like coming from the previously held hill by the French, looks like the comrades from our side are mustering, so that is a sigh of relief to our troops, and not looking good for the English here. Or sorry, the French. Keep getting this turned around. Have I been casting that backwards? Oh well. And yep, bowmen pulling up, and now we're going to target some key units. Luckily for us, these halberdiers are already pretty weak and have absolutely no armor. So let's go ahead and target the units on the flank. Always a good move. And man, look at them. This is so cool. This is why I love Total War. Look at the carnage. The grass, the horse bodies, and then the arrows coming over is so freaking cool. I can't wait to see what this series is going to look like in the next 10 years as graphics continue to improve.
I could get used to this. I with honor, men. I'd rather die than a woman.
They don't even know what's on the other side. What do? Come over here, clamber over some bodies and poke your head? Well, if you were to do that, what you would see is Knights of Jerusalem pushing forward. And boy, oh boy, do we have a lot of infantry moving up. Something really cool here, actually. I'm going to have an assault with my foot retinue from the English king, and they're going to form up into a wedge formation. And one of the cool things I love about this mod as well, not only the unit variety, but the unit formations. And so now we're going to get a cool charge into this mass of English spears. Of French spears. Cavalry down the center. Swordsmen pushing through the center, not really getting much of an impact, but we're at least penetrating a little bit. And then take a look at what's happening from the back. Oh god, the English knights. Oh my god, no unit left in sight. Gonna be also charging in with the wedge here, throwing the banner up through the center, and then another wave of English knights hitting from the back. Oh god, here it comes. A wedge. Boom. Devastating. So wedges from both sides. That is going to slice up a unit. Yep, this Pavesier absolutely destroyed. Even though I charged spears with Cav. Yep, that is going to be for the win. I even have archers committed against these halberdiers. We are out for blood. We can sense victory at this point. Yeah, this is so cool. And look at all these heavy regiments just spilling over the hill. God, this is a bloody, bloody day. Meanwhile, a couple of my cavalry have been pulled out of the fight. Like I said, no need to leave them engaged forever. Pull them out of the engagement, splay them out in a long line, and then do a charge to get maximum front for my assault. 111 kills here, and this is going to do a pretty good damage against the halberdiers. 112, 116, 120, 130 almost. Yep. So that's going to shatter that, and now the entire French force on the right is going to rout. I'm not sure if we saved any of our Englishmen, the knights who were on this front, but man, oh man, we came to the rescue at the end. A couple of them were probably still alive, and geez, did we put the hurt on. So that was a really fun battle. I hope you guys enjoyed. I love this type of map. So cool. Just thematically, the two hills with armies facing off, a no man's land in the center, towns to defend, little, you know, ways to break up the terrain with fields, and little divots here and there to fight with the infantry. Such a fun battle. God, I love this mod. I love this game. Really big thanks to the modders for giving me access to this. Very cool. It's obviously open for everyone, but they help me walk me through the install process. Let's end the replay here. Take a look at some of the final results, and yeah, look how many men were deployed here. 4K on my side, 2.5 for Dank Meme, 2.5 for the French, and Toulouse here with 3K. So we had 1,000 more than anyone else. On my side, most of the kills actually being inflicted by cavalry, as you would expect, and a lot actually being dealt by the archers. Excuse me, the archers as well. Foot troops really not doing too much. And look at this, the first like 300 men here. No, this is way more than 300. This is maybe like 1,000 men. Cheap troops doing almost nothing except absorbing kills. And the English king with 164. Take a look at Dank Meme. His cavalry also doing really good work. This guy got into the skirmishers. Main line of swords, Crusader, Knightly Swordsman doing okay. Oh my god, these dismounted knights are absolute monsters. 199, 190, 146, 174, 182. Good god, those guys won him that engagement on the flank. Meanwhile, the Kingdom of France, cavalry doing fairly well. These footmen at arms, 259, 237, they probably killed the peasants. Did really good. So the Frenchmen having a lot of good infantry, pretty good cavalry, just not the numbers to sustain themselves. And then this force here, cavalry getting beaten, archers not doing too well. Some of the swordsmen and spears doing okay, but mostly it was kind of a grinding fight with Toulouse until they were eventually overwhelmed and obliterated. Yeah, look at the final stats. 385, a tenth of the starting force left over. Here's 698. Yeah, not much left, and us still very healthy numbers. Well, actually, I lost over 50%, instead of my ally, but that is good. I mean, 305 overall, maybe 1,000 for them, 2,500 for us. Yeah, the odds were definitely in our favor, but still a Pyrrhic victory. Heavy losses on all sides. Hope you guys did enjoy this one. I really like the battlefield, the play of the units, the visuals, all very exciting stuff. So anyways, hope you guys enjoyed. Stay tuned for more. See you in the next one. Peace out.